Why is it that taxes, direct and indirect, are increasing not just year on year, but almost month by month, one way or another? And yet our economy is faring worse and worse. Our national debt exceeds our GDP. There's less and less money for essential services. We've had yet another local authority issue a 114, which was Birmingham Council, effectively bankrupt to the tune of £750 million, and that follows other local authorities such as Thurrock, who squandered it on harebrained investments, Northamptonshire, and apparently there's a dozen more in the pipeline that could go the same way. At a time when our economy, or the world in fact, is in a precarious position, rather than take steps to encourage business, our Chancellor decided to put corporation tax basically through the roof, and it is SMEs who will suffer the most because of these tax rises, and SMEs account for 52% of our GDP. They are the companies, the growing companies, that the Chancellor should have looked after and should not have basically financially stabbed in the back. It's actually a disgrace in this day and age that people who are earning less than what they need to be above the poverty line are having effectively the food taken out of their mouth. The tax-free allowance for income is ridiculously low, and not only is it already, or was it already, ridiculously low, but it was frozen back in 2020 and has now been extended to 2028. In other words, it has been left to be eroded by compound inflation for a total of 8 years, meaning that by 2028 your tax-free allowance will effectively be worth a fraction of what it was back in 2020, which in turn means the government will be taking more tax from you without you earning more in real terms, and that is from money that most people in that category need to heat or to eat or other essentials. In this day and age, the tax-free allowance should be well over £20,000. It is in some other European countries, and they're not the fourth or fifth largest economies in the world. And yet here, people have to hand over income tax on money they need to feed their children. That is an absolute disgrace. And yet, at the same time, we have multinationals generating billions of pounds of business in this country, and literally, comparatively, pro rata, paying in next to nothing. There was over £100 billion worth of online trading last year, well over. Much of that comes from the Far East. We've all been on eBay or AliExpress and bought a case or a lead for our phone for £2 or £3 or £4, which just arrives through the post. It's only a small purchase, so effectively it slips in the country with no import duty or anything. So those companies are not contributing anything to the UK economy. These products come in, undercut UK companies, undermine them, and gradually put them out of business. Having said that, it is understandable, because if you've ever stopped at the motorway services and ran into one of the shops to buy a charger for your phone, you'll probably find that it will be something like $49.99, and then you have to pay for the bag. So it's understandable, but that's an extreme example because there is so much money that the government is allowing to slip through its fingers from multinationals and overseas companies, and yet it decides to take money from the poorest in this country, and not just individuals, but it is taking money from the SMEs, which are the backbone of British business. The UK was the original nation of entrepreneurs, Something happened following World War II and we became a nation of red tape. And despite the fact that we had glimpses of the removal of this red tape back in the 80s, here we are now with a government that seems to absolutely love taxation, the enforcement of ridiculous laws, control, ULEZ, 15-minute cities, and they're even allowing local authorities to charge people who have an older, less compliant vehicle more to park than a newer vehicle. Who's going to own that older vehicle statistically? Is it somebody who's wealthy or somebody who's poor? And for these ridiculous taxes, stealth taxes, to be introduced in the name of a cleaner environment is an absolute insult, when effectively, if you can pay, you're free to pollute as much as you wish. Something needs to be done about all of these issues, and it is not simply switching from one party to the other. This duopoly, they bank on the vote for or against each other. Most of the time, people vote for one party simply because they don't want the other party. That is not the way to vote. This is not democracy. The people we vote for do not represent us. They ignore our wishes. They blatantly lie to our faces, and we allow them to stay in power. Throughout the country, we need to make a concerted effort to remove all of these lying, deceitful and dishonest people one by one. We need to drain the swamp, and we need to stop allowing them to use threats such as, if you vote for this person you will get Labour, if you vote for that person you will get Conservative, etc, etc. Don't care who you vote for, none of the above. Vote for an independent, vote for a poodle with a badge. Do not vote for these people. They need to go, and they need to go now. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.